and it obviously has an affect on you. Let's just take a look. I shook my head and turned towards the hill. No, I'm sorry. I just really want to go back home now. I was about to take a step when two voices started to speak. Christopher, are you sure there's a flower out here? There was a pause before the other spoke. Yeah, I'm positive. I can smell it. It's absolutely captivating. A shiver ran down my spine. Two guys, two men, were coming right towards me, and I was too afraid to climb back up the hill. Christopher, wait. Someone else is out here. I can sense it. It's a female. What are you waiting for, Diana? You said you didn't want to see who they are, but now you're just sitting there waiting to be spotted. I couldn't reply. My body felt weird. I've never felt anything like this. It was like I was going insane. A female. Where? Right ahead, where this so-called flower is. Let's just check it out. The crunching of the leaves got heavier, and the smell that my wolf was smelling was right under my nose. Come on, Diana. Time to move. I shook my head and snapped out from my trance. What the heck was I thinking? I began to ascend the hill, but it was already too late. Hello? I froze, not wanting to move. You know I can. Well, we can see you. I turned slowly, but kept my eyes closed shut. Talk to them, but don't act suspicious, my wolf told me. I nodded, high. Ah, so she speaks. Can't she open her eyes? Oh gosh, this was torture. Christopher, why is she wearing an apron? That got my attention. My eyes snapped open and immediately looked towards my clothes. Oh gosh, I was wearing my apron. I told you that you were forgetting things. I shook my head. Stupid wolf. May I have your name, apron lady? I looked up at the two men in front of me, but really only saw one. He was tall and handsome and captivating and… Oh God, what am I thinking? The strange thing was, he was looking at me the same way I was him. Like we were in a trance. Our attention was snapped from each other by a cough. Well, since you won't answer, Christopher, I guess I'll do the introductions. I'm Brent, the beta of our pack, and this is Christopher, he's the alpha. Now, who are you? Who am I? My God, you're Diana. Oh, right, silly me. The shock. I'm Diana. The guy named Christopher smiled. That's a perfect name for you. So, if I may ask, where's your pack? You shouldn't be out here alone. My pack? They're dead. I'm a rogue. Packs kill rogues. They could kill me. Oh God, I'm gonna die. I turned my back on them and darted up the hill. I'm not going to die today. Wait. I ignored him and kept running. Diana. Not now. Why I hope you know they're chasing us. Wait, what? I glanced back and started to freak out. They really were chasing me, and they were going full speed. I'm going to die. Diana, stop. Why are you running? Hurry, Diana. We're almost home. I nodded and pushed myself to go faster. I have to get inside my wall. They wouldn't dare to come in, would they? Soon enough, I made it. I was in my village, but I still didn't stop running. I had to get to Eric. Eric, I yelled while running. A moment later, my fuzzy friend came striding from the house. He cocked his head to the side. Sound the alarms. Do something. We're under attack. Why They're here. I skidded to a stop and looked behind me. My eyes widened. Yes? Christopher and Brent came charging in. Brent seemed to have lost breath and stopped running at the entrance, but Christopher was still running at full speed. Move, Diana. I can't. If my eyes could widen any more, they did. He was coming right at me. I really am going to die. Move, Diana. I can't stop, Christopher shouted, trying to slow down. I closed my eyes and held out my hands. A moment later, he crashed into me and we tumbled. When we stopped tumbling, I opened my eyes. Christopher was on top of me. Oh God. I'm sorry, Diana. I didn't mean to. He sat himself up to where he was straddling me. Oh shit, you're hurt. Here, let me just… He put the palm of his hand on my arm where I had scraped myself from the crash. Immediately, sparks flew up my arm and engulfed my body. His eyes widened. Mart. Did I hear him right? Wate. I shook my head at my wolf. Impossible. But I couldn't help but question it. Mate? God, I stuttered. He nodded and leaned down to where his mouth was by my ear. Mart. Chapter 4. Wait, why, you're my mate. Christopher nodded and finally got up off of me. Yeah, I guess so, he happily said while holding out his hand. I hesitantly took it, but nearly let go as my arm was engulfed by sparks. When I was hauled up from my butt, Brent quickly ran up to us. Holy crap, guys. Are you guys okay? I swear I heard a loud crunching sound. He heard what? Oh gosh, if I end up having brain damage. Nah man, we're fine. Right, Diana? I nodded. Yeah, perfectly fine. Christopher's smile soon faded. Why did you run? I shook my head. Do you guys want to know the truth? They both nodded simultaneously. I looked down at my feet. What am I supposed to say? Should I tell them that I ran away from you because I thought you were going to kill me? That would just make me look stupid. Just say it. He's our mate. He won't kill us. I think. My wolf urges me. She thinks. Well, I guess if she thinks so, then he won't kill me. I ran because I looked up into Christopher's eyes and saw concern. I ran because I thought you guys were here to kill me. Silence. Wow, I can't believe you actually said it. My wolf sighed. What the heck does she want? It was her who asked me to speak up the truth. All of a sudden, they both erupted into laughter. Diana, why on earth would we kill you? Christopher asked while cracking up. Brent spoke up while clutching his stomach. For a gatherer, you sure are stupid. For some reason, that didn't seem offensive. I don't know why, but for some reason I started to laugh along. This just felt right. Me and Christopher were still laughing when Brent just froze. Wait, guys, have you noticed anything strange? Notice what? Christopher and I asked simultaneously, causing us to laugh even harder. He started looking around. This village is completely empty. I swear my heart stopped. They were going to find out. Find out I was alone and a rouge. Then they would either kill me or leave me and have Christopher reject me. Then I would feel the pain Paul mentioned all those years ago. Yeah, Christopher said, snapping me out of my reverie. Come to think about it, this village seems abandoned. Where is everyone, Diana? Tears sprung to my eyes, causing worry to flash across Christopher's face and confusion across Brent's. Christopher quickly grabbed hold of my shoulders. W, what's wrong? D, did I upset you? I covered my eyes with my hands and shook my head. No, you didn't do anything. I didn't want to tell him everyone was dead, but I had to. I crumpled to the ground, tears flowing from eyes. Christopher still held on to me, so he was on the ground too. Diana, please, just tell me what's wrong. I promise I'll make it better. I couldn't finish. For some reason, I didn't want to finish that sentence. Arms wrapping around me snapped me from my thoughts. I took my hands from my eyes and saw total blackness. It was soft and had a very fascinating smell. I just wanted to sit there and stay like this, but the blackness shifted, revealing a muscular arm. The whole time I was crying into Christopher's shoulder, getting his shirt soaked. Shush, it's okay. I promise it'll be all right. He continued to coo. I gripped his arm tightly. They're all gone. Dead. Christopher pulled away from me and cocked his head. What do you mean? Brent knelt down next to Christopher and gripped his shoulder, causing Christopher to look at him. She's a rouge. Her whole pack is dead. I covered my face with my hands, not wanting to look him in the eyes. I'm sorry. That's why I ran. But you just had to follow me. I felt his arms leave my body and heard him stand, causing me to cry harder. How did they die? M, my brother's friend, he betrayed us and L let the rouges in. Tear, they killed everyone and they burned everything. I couldn't stop crying and stuttering. He was going to reject me. I knew he was. I don't want him to. I'd feel like I'd die if he did. I nodded. What did you do to the bodies? I looked up at him. He showed no emotion on his face. He must hate me now. What? I asked. What did you do with the bodies? I slowly got up and grabbed his hand. His eyes widened, probably from the static-like feeling. I turned around, still holding onto his hand. Then I began to pull. At first, he kept his ground, but then he followed. I stayed silent the whole time, trying to stifle my sobs. The only sound was the two men whispering. Are you sure we can trust her? Brent. Of course. She's my mate. I have to, Christopher. He accepts me as his mate. But will he reject me later? Brent didn't answer back, most likely shocked from the fact I was Christopher's mate. The rest of the way to the graves was silent. No one made a sound. When we got there, I immediately dropped Christopher's hand and went up to one of the graves and crouched down. Gianna Jones, cause of death, killed in battle, 1973-2013. Loving mother of Hank Jones, Solomon Jones, Thomas Jones, and Diana Jones. Hey Mum, this might be the last time I talk to you. I just wanted to thank you for everything. You buried them all. I nodded at Christopher's voice. They all deserve something better, but this is all that I could manage. I looked at Christopher. He was showing sorrow. Christopher, Brent said, there's a total of 87 graves. Christopher took slow steps towards me, his fists clenched. Was he going to hurt me? I closed my eyes, not wanting to see a fist come at me. But I was surprised when two strong arms wrapped around me. What? He sighed. I'm sorry, Diana. I'm sorry that you lost everything and had to face it on your own. And I'm sorry I was a jerk to you. It's just that you're a rouge, and rouges are usually, crazy. And I'm sorry that. I cut him off. It's fine. You don't have to be sorry for anything. He pulled away, a smile on his face. Do you forgive me? I nodded. How can I be mad at you? Brent began to laugh and Christopher began to chuckle. That's when I realized it. I just technically flirted with someone I barely knew. Kill me now. I felt a blush creep up my neck. It's fine. I know what you meant, Christopher said before he winked, causing me to blush even more. So, Brent started. What do we do now? Christopher grinned widely, still staring at me. Easy, we called back home. Within seconds, Christopher had a phone pulled out. A phone? Gosh, I haven't won in 3 years. Do you know how crazy that is? He dialed a number and started to talk in his cellular device. But I didn't really pay much attention. I was just so hooked up on the phone. Okay, bye. Christopher hung up and glanced at me. When he caught me staring wide-eyed, he gave me a smile that showed of his pearly whites. What? Oh, it's just that I haven't seen a cell phone in 3 years, so it's like, fascinating. His smile got bigger. Gosh, I just wanted to kiss his lips and, no! Get a hold of yourself, Diana. Before I knew it, he tossed me his phone, which I barely caught. A phone. A freaking phone was in my hands. Oh, how I feel blessed. I fisted the air and started to giggle. Whis. Behold, God's mighty creation, the cell phone. Christopher and Brent started to crack up. Wow, Christopher, you sure got lucky with her. Christopher nodded. Yeah, I know. I started to blush, again. All right, guys, Christopher said. Let's go back to the pack. Go back, they're leaving already? They started to walk away and just stood there, stealing at the ground with a cell in my hand. Or, Diana. I looked up to a very confused Brent. What? He smiled. You do know you're coming with us, right? My face lit up. Did he say what I think he just said? I could tell my wolf was excited. I nodded ferociously. I can't believe it. I'm going with my mate. I quickly jogged up to catch up to Christopher, leaving Brent behind who was laughing like crazy. Wait. Christopher stopped to look at me. What about my stuff? He smiled. Well, I called my parents to send 2 other members to come here and get the stuff in that burnt house, he said, while pointing to my little house thingy. Then he continued to walk. Wait. He started to crack up. Yes? What about Puppy Eric? He cocked his head. I smiled and whistled. A couple seconds later, Puppy Eric came striding to us, just as Brent was catching up. Puppy Eric, this is Christopher and Brent. We're going with them to their pack. Puppy Eric nodded at them, making their mouths drop. I began to giggle. That pup can understand you, Brent questioned, still surprised. I nodded. Of course he can. Before I knew it, Christopher slung his arm over my shoulder. Let's get going, okay? A blush crept up my neck as I nodded. Yeah. He smiled one of his perfect smiles as we began walking, with Puppy Eric and Brent in pursuit. Can I just tell you how much I hate walking? I mean, seriously, it sucks. Within 30 minutes of walking to Christopher's and Brent's village, my feet ached. I wish I was a pup, because Puppy Eric wasn't breaking a sweat. Oh, hey, Diana. I looked at Christopher and smiled. Yeah? He smiled back. May I have my phone back? His phone? Oh, right. I looked down at my hands, which held his cell phone, and frowned. Goodbye. Oh, holy phone, I will miss you so. Yeah, sure, I said while smiling. Then I tossed his phone to him, which he easily caught. So, Diana. I glanced at Brent. Yeah? He smiled. How long have you lived in that burnt-down village? Ever since we've been born. I shook my head. Well, technically, since it was first burnt down, so 3 years. He nodded and looked ahead. Before I knew it, I tripped on a log and fell on my face. Mother Nature, why do you hate me so much? I quickly stood like nothing happened, which caused everyone, not including Puppy Eric, to start laughing. I'm such a klutz. Wow, Christopher said while laughing. You're such a klutz. See what I mean? It's not my fault, I whined. My feet ache. Within seconds, Christopher had me swooped up into his arms, causing me to blush. Well, of course they do. A princess shouldn't be walking. My face ended up getting hotter after that comment. If it was possible, steam would probably be rising from my face. Go ahead and get comfortable, Christopher said. We've got a lot more ground to cover before we get there. Brent joined in. Yeah, like 45 minutes worth. I nodded and nuzzled my head into Christopher's shoulder. Gosh, it smelt good. I just wanted to stay like this forever. Before I knew it, I had fallen asleep. Diana, wake up. Wake up, we're here. I opened my eyes to see Christopher smiling down at me. We're here? Oh, right, his and Brent's village. When I sat up in Christopher's arms to look ahead, my eyes widened. There stood the biggest village I'd ever seen. Trust me, it was huge. Let's just say, I could already tell I wasn't going to fit in. Chapter 5, Welcome back, Alpha. It's nice to see you again, Alpha. That's all I heard. Apparently, Christopher wasn't some ordinary guy. Of course he isn't, he's the Alpha. I shook my head and started to look around. I was getting so many evil eyes, mostly from girls, that it was hard to breath. But I was probably receiving a lot of them because Christopher was still holding me in his arms. I took one of my hands and grasped Christopher's shirt. Christopher? You should probably put me down now. He looked down at me and cocked his eyebrow. Why? I don't know why, but a blush started to creep up my neck. Because I'm attracting a lot of attention. He smiled and looked around us. Huh, I guess you are. Oh well, they'll have to get over themselves. I shrunk into his arms and nuzzled my head into his shoulder, taking in his scent. You don't mind if I do this then, do you? I heard a small laugh escape his lips. Not at all, I actually think it's really cute. Gosh, I'm starting to like this man. I smiled, but it was concealed by his dark shirt. This is truly the happiest moment I've lived in a while. We kept walking through the village. Well, I didn't, just Christopher, Brent, and Puppy Eric. But I could still feel the sharp glares in my back from all the people watching and welcoming. Welcome back, Big Brother. Big Brother? Hey, Alison. I felt Christopher kneel down, making me a bit uncomfortable. But I didn't do anything about it. I just nuzzled more into his shoulder. I'm sorry, sis. I couldn't get you your flower, but I got something better. I could feel eyes watching me. Who is that, Chris? Huh, Chris, how cute. I'll call him that later. It's my princess. I had to travel far and wide just to find her. But alas, I think she fell asleep again. I heard a small giggle. Chris, is the princess your mate? I could hear excitement in the girl's voice. Ah, indeed, little sister. And you see that pup over there? Well, that's her trusty companion. There was silence, that is, until a little squeal was sounded. Then I heard the sound of feet shuffling a little ways from us. A pup. A pup. We're going to have so much fun. I'll make you a crown, and I'll make you cookies, and we'll have parties where only princes and princesses are invited. I smiled. Looks like Puppy Eric is going to be getting a lot of attention. You know, you're really bad at fake sleeping, Christopher whispered in my ear. I looked up to see him staring at me with a glint in his eyes. Oh gosh, I could just lose myself in them. Sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt you guys' conversation, Chris. A blush covered his face. Then he stood up. Tisk, tisk. Princesses shouldn't be eavesdropping on conversations. Well, it sure is hard when I'm literally in the middle of them. He laughed and continued to walk, leaving behind Puppy Eric with Alison. Hey, Christopher, what are you going to say to your parents? I looked at Brent, which was very hard from my position, by the way. He had a point. Everyone knows that it's forbidden to mate with a rouge. I don't think it's even happened. What if we're not accepted? We might get kicked out. Nonsense. Only the Alpha and Luna can kick someone out of a pack. It doesn't matter. Today is my ceremony. They can't say anything against me today. I looked up at Christopher, wide-eyed. He wasn't Alpha yet, but why did everyone call him that? Because his ceremony is today, you idiot. I shook my head. But if he's not the Alpha, then that means I can still get kicked out. Christopher, doesn't that mean I could still be thrown out? He looked at me with concern in his eyes. I won't let them, I promise. I nodded and looked towards where we were heading. You know those houses that look like they're for rich people? Well, that's where we were headed. It was a house that had stone steps leading to the front door, had pillars, a bunch of cars, vines going up the side, and was super big. If I was in it, I would most likely get lost and die. I pointed to it with my mouth gaped. Is that your house? Christopher let loose a laugh. Oh, that's my parents' and sister's house. Mine is much more smaller. I sighed and I nodded, but still gaped. It was just unbelievable. With me in Christopher's arms and Brent walking beside us, we started to ascend the stairs. Gosh, I was nervous. For all I knew, Christopher's parents were a bunch of crabby people. Hey Diana, a word of advice. I looked towards Brent and cocked my eyebrow. Yeah? He gave a sweet smile. Not as sweet as Christopher's though, and replied, You might want to act like you're asleep. Christopher's folks might think it's pretty weird for him to be carrying a girl who's wide awake. You know how parents are. I nodded. Speaking of his parents, what are they like? In a matter of seconds, Brent was hovering over me with the creepiest smile I've ever seen as he started to wiggle his fingers in my face. They're absolutely horrible. They get one look at you, then they judge you. Then while you sleep, they pour a bucket of spiders on your head. My eyes widened with fright and I began to shake. Spores, spee spiders. Oh yes, and not only. Before Brent and I knew it, Christopher kicked him in the gut, sending Brent tumbling down the hard stone stairs that we'd been walking up. Stop scaring my mate. I looked over at Brent as he continued to tumble, then at Christopher, again at Brent, then back at Christopher. Is he going to be okay? Christopher started to continue up the steps with a smile on his face. Oh, just fine. There's a reason why he's the beta. I glanced back down the steps. Brent got to his feet and began to shout. No doubt in my mind that he was shouting a series of swear words. Then he began to climb back up the steps. When we reached the giant door, Christopher looked down at me. You ready? I shook my head and nuzzled into his shoulder, acting like I was asleep. Now I am. He laughed and began to pound on the door. I heard the door open and a woman speak. Oh, Christopher, welcome back. Oh, who's this? I'll tell you when I get inside. Is Dad home? Poor thing. He's in the living room sleeping. I felt Christopher nod. Oh, and leave the door open for Brent. He fell down the steps. I almost began to giggle but held it in. I heard the woman sigh. Again? Oh, yes, ma'am. Then Christopher began to walk. As we entered the house, a whole bunch of new smells whacked me in the face. And they sure did smell good. I felt Christopher take some turns before he stopped. Then I felt him sit down. Honey, Christopher's here, the woman said. I heard a yawn before a man spoke. Oh, Christopher, you're back. Welcome. And who's this young lady you have in your arms? Well, Dad, that's why I'm here. You see, this is Diana. She's my mate. Both of them gasped before the woman replied. How do you know? Well, Mum, I accidentally crashed into her. And when I touched her, I felt those sparks that you guys told me about. It was amazing. I heard a small chuckle. Congratulations, son. So whose pack is she a part of? Christopher sighed. Well, you know that forest fire we saw 3 years ago from our tower. Yes, they both said simultaneously. Well, you see, that was her pack. They were under attack by a small army of rouges. She was the only survivor. The woman gasped, then spoke up. May we talk to her? I felt Christopher nod before he whispered in my ear. Rise and shine. I could just hear the smirk in his voice. Well, it's acting time. I slowly rose from Christopher's arms and released a yawn while stretching. Then I took a look around. The living room was huge. It had a huge flat screen on the wall along with speakers. There were 2 sofas, one which Christopher and I occupied. 2 chairs, which one was occupied by the man, who I'm guessing is Christopher's father, and a large coffee table. I looked at the woman and smiled. She looked pretty young for being a mother. She had no wrinkles whatsoever. She had Ryan's eyes and hair, hazel with a speck of green, and short brown hair. I looked towards the man and smiled at him. He had green eyes, with short blonde hair. He too looked pretty young. The only thing noticeable were some dark circles under his eyes. I looked at Christopher and smiled. But that quickly changed when I noticed I was still on his lap. I released a squeak and quickly squirmed off of him, blushing. "Hi, I'm Harper Thatcher, and this is my husband Douglas Thatcher," she said while holding out her hand. I took her hand and shook it just as Douglas spoke. "I can introduce myself, one." I giggled as Harper rolled her eyes. Douglas was about to speak, but was interrupted by a sweaty Brent. "I'm here. I survived." Brent shouted while fisting the air. "Sit down, boy. I'm trying to have a conversation." Brent hesitantly nodded, then took a seat by me. Then he whispered in my ear while smirking, "Remember, bucket of spiders." I went wide-eyed but shook my head. "He's just teasing me, right?" "Anyways," Douglas said. "I'm Douglas Thatcher. And that's my wife Harper," he said, then winked at me. I giggled as Harper rolled her eyes. "Yes, honey, we've already been over that." "Oh, well, I'm Diana Jones." They both nodded until Douglas spoke again. "Jones? That sounds familiar." "Two? Well, my dad was a beater, but he died when I was really little." He nodded and mumbled to himself. "I swear I know that name." He probably tried to make it so that I didn't hear him, but he was a bad whisperer. "So," Harper said, "we understand you're the only survivor of your pack. How long have you been on your own?" "Since I was 15. I'm now 18, so 3 years." She nodded. "Did you do anything for education?" I shook my head. "No, ma'am. I lived in my old village the whole time." She smiled and turned to Douglas. "Honey, go make a call to Scott Johnson. You go with him, Brent." They both nodded and got up from their seats. Then they left the room. "So, Diana," Harper said, "would you like to listen to some music?" Music." She nodded and plucked a remote off the coffee table. When she clicked a button on it, music started to play. I jumped off the couch and started to bounce in place. Oh my gosh, music! I haven't listened to any in 3 years. Christopher started to laugh along with Harper. Then he stood up and pinched my cheeks. "God, Diana, you're so adorable." First, the phone. Then, the music. "How are you going to react with a shower?" Shower? They both began to laugh harder until Brent and Damien walked back in. "Well, it's official," Douglas said. "What is?" Everyone stared at me and began to smile. "You're going to school with me and Christopher next Monday," Brent said. "Sci school?" Chapter 6. "Bye, you three," Harper shouted out as Christopher, Brent and I walked down the stone steps. I waved to her and turned around to walk properly down the steps next to the 2 boys. "They seem nice," I said happily, which caused Christopher to smile. He turned to me and winked. "Glad you think so. So, were you afraid of meeting them?" I nodded. "Yeah, I was freaking out in my head about spiders the whole time." I heard Brent snicker. "You're lucky they didn't do it while you were fake sleeping." My eyes widened. "Yes? Would they have done it?" In a matter of seconds, Brent was in my face doing his creepy smile. "Oh yes." In fact, Brent was cut short with a fist making contact with his face. Then he began to tumble down the steps. Again, each step his body hit, he would release a swear word. "What did I say about scaring her, Brent?" My face went a tad bit pale. "Don't worry, Diana, he'll be okay." I shook my head. "No, it's just that I'm just thinking about how much he's fallen down these steps." Christopher began to laugh and bent down. I cocked my eyebrow. He pointed to his back. "Get on my back, it'll be fun." A smile lit my face and I nodded my head ferociously. "Yes, yes." I quickly scrambled to him and got onto his back, squealing like a little kid. He stood up and started to laugh. "Gosh, Diana, you're so cute." A blush crept up my neck, but I didn't stop squealing with excitement. We continued down the steps until we reached the bottom where Brent was lying face first. Christopher bent down, still keeping me on his back, and began poking Brent. "Dude, that was quite the trip. You need to watch your step." I couldn't help but giggle. It was just too funny. "Okay, we'll meet you at my place." Brent groaned, and Christopher got back up and began to walk. When we passed the gates from Harper and Douglas's house, there was small movement from the corner of my eye. Big brother? Christopher turned and faced a little girl with puppy Eric. She was the most adorable thing ever. She had 2 pigtails with blonde curly hair. She was wearing a pink dress that went to her knees and was barefoot. So freaking adorable. And the best part was that she looked 8 or so. Christopher walked over to her and bent down. Hey, Allison. So this was Allison. She's just so cute. She looked up at me and a smile lit up on her face. Ooh, princess. I giggled. Hi. She curtsied, then looked up at me. I was just wondering if I'm allowed to have your trusty companion stay with me tonight. Now, Allison, Christopher started. I shook my head. No, Christopher, it's fine. I smiled at Allison and nodded. In fact, he can stay with you as long as you want. He's probably happy now that there's more people to give him attention. Her face lit up even more, and she curtsied again. Thanks so much. Come on, puppy Eric, let's get you a bouncy bed. I giggled as she began to bounce around in circles, but she turned back to me. Can I tell you a secret? I nodded. Within seconds she had her mouth up to my ear and began to whisper. You're the flower. I'm the flower. She stepped back and smiled at me. Then she ran towards the stone steps with puppy Eric in pursuit. Did she say something that seemed strange? I shook my head. No, just something that caught me off guard. Christopher nodded and stood, then he began to walk. When you have real discussions with her later in life, please don't judge her. I looked down at him even though I could only see the back of his head. Why would I judge her? He shook his head, making his captivating scent go everywhere. She has